say it's a pretty common occurrence as we walk around and interact with each other in our Western society. You look around, it seems like everybody's got a logo or a symbol on their shirt, on their clothing, right? And it's like, we probably all do the same thing. Some of our favorite brands we like to wear, Tommy Hilfiger, Nautica, right? You know, sometimes ladies on their pocketbooks, if it's a Louis Vuitton pocketbook, it's worth a lot of money, you know, or the interlocking G's for Gucci, you know? I remember back in the late 70s when I was in high school, the big jeans to wear were the Jordache jeans, right? So you had to have that Jordache brand and that symbol on the rear pocket of your jeans, and then you were cool, right? It's not just manufacturers. I think sports teams as well. We were all enamored with our favorite teams, and so maybe we wear, you know, a replica jersey or even just something that has a logo or a symbol on it. You ever thought about that? What these logos and symbols really mean to us? How important are they to us? What are they doing for us? I think sometimes they actually do cause us to kind of go overboard and flaunt our material wealth. Sometimes they're also a way, sort of a sign that we can kind of connect with each other and find people who are wearing the same kind of clothes or rooting for the same kind of team. So they mean certain things to us. In our gospel passage today from Matthew chapter 12, Jesus points to the logos and the symbols of the time, the signs that the Pharisees and the scribes were looking for. And as you probably know, those are his favorite targets to point out things that people are doing that they shouldn't be doing. Because the Pharisees and the scribes should know. They should know the law. They should know God. They should be faithful to God. And they're not. They're only in it really for themselves. And so when they ask for a sign, Jesus knows it's not really in their heart that they're looking to find out who Jesus really is. They really want to sort of be ready to put him to death, but they also want to kind of elevate themselves. And Jesus knows this. And he calls them the evil and unfaithful generation. He says, you know what, people? Here's the sign for you. And he knew that they knew this story very well, the story of Jonah. Jonah in the belly of the great whale for 3 days. And Jesus even explains it to us. What does that really mean? It's a foreshadowing of Jesus' time that he will be in the earth for 3 days after his crucifixion on Calvary. That's what the story of Jonah really means. And so there's the sign that I think we need to pay attention to. Sign is the sign of the cross. And we know it. We know that sign because we make that sign every day, whether we make it with our gestures or whether we see a cross. That cross is probably the most important sign and symbol for us as Christians. And why? Because this is God's love on display. This is God's infinite love, that God would do this, that he would come amongst us as a person, live amongst us in every way like us, but sin, die for us, give his life for us, for our benefit. Completely the opposite of the way the Pharisees would look at this, right? The Messiah, they were looking for the wrong kind of Messiah. Jesus died for us. And so the cross for us is this great sacrificial, self-sacrificing love that God has for us that is infinite. And it's there so that we can come into a better relationship with God. And where does that relationship start for us? It starts at our baptism, of course. Right? Now, as a deacon, I am so blessed and honored to be able to baptize babies. As of right now, I have baptized in my 7 years as a deacon 214 babies. It's wonderful. Every single one of them is great and important. It's a beautiful, beautiful sacrament. And I think one of the reasons why I really love it so much is, yes, babies are adorable. They're beautiful. They're wonderful, you know. And I think back to my own time as a father when my children were that age, right, and the baptism of my children. But I think all of us look at a child and we recognize there is unbounded potential in this child. This child is barely a few months old. His or her whole life stretches out. And we don't know what path that child will take, but we have this great hope that that child will do it in God's love. And so that baptism brings that child to that, and now the child is going to go forward in the world with the help of his or her parents and experience God's love. This child that has never existed before and will never exist again, this person will receive this new love from God. God's love is infinite because the babies keep coming, and the children are still loved, and God still will pour out love on those little babies as they grow into adults. So their life is a joining to Jesus, who sacrificed himself on the cross, and a participation in God's love. But it's really not just those children, of course, right? Because we're all children of God. We were all baptized a little while ago. I've been walking this planet for a while. And you think about the paths that we've walked and the infinite love that God has shown for us. We kind of know at this point in our lives, where we've come from. And hopefully we've still got some beautiful paths ahead of us. We don't know. But think about how God has touched us in our lives in all the different ways, the different people who we are. God has touched each of us in a different way. We've come into our own special relationship with God. Infinite love. It just keeps multiplying. It's there for all of us, and especially when we really need that love of God. We hope that babies will have a beautiful life with no problems, but that's not reality. And some of us have been through very difficult moments in our lives, and we think about that. And those times that there have been difficulties, think about, wow, God, you've been there. You've been there for me, and you've loved me in a very special way, in a way that might not have ever existed before, but it was there for me. Especially in the Eucharist. Every time we receive Jesus in the Eucharist, it's a new time of us to be in a relationship with Jesus intimately, right? And it happens all the time, every day at Mass, for millions and millions and millions of Catholics, every day, the real presence of Jesus. And that's going to continue in our lives all the way forward until we get to meet God face to face. Infinite love, continuing to multiply. But that's not even all. Because it is not just God's love being showered on us. We're Christians, and we are asked to carry our crosses as well. We don't just be passive Christians. We have to be active Christians. We have to go out into the world and share that same love. God gives us the ability to love. And so, our love is infinite too. Fascinating, isn't it? That love is multiplied through each of us, through our personalities, through what we do, through the life that we lead. And God just says, be out there to love. I think especially of the beautiful relationship that a husband and a wife has, right? That unique bond that they have with each other, and that is a sacrificial love, absolutely. A sacramental marriage is one in which it's the example of a real presence of Jesus loving his church. That's what a wife and a husband do in their marriage. And when those difficult moments come up, unexpectedly in a marriage, what happens? One spouse is going to be there to love the other in a new way that might never have existed before. Our children, those of us who have children, right? Situations that we never thought we'd have to anticipate, but there they are. And there we are loving our children. Even as adults, how many of us have to care for our parents who cared for us, right? Same thing. Infinite ways that we show love. This gives the world hope, I think. That this love is going to continue. It's going to break down any kind of barriers of evil and unfaithfulness because of our dedication to the cross, to the sign that God gives us, that we have the ability to love infinitely, just as God has loved us infinitely. So, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ, we call ourselves Christians. We have the most important symbol that the world has ever seen, the cross. How about those other symbols and logos that we have? The manufacturers' logos that we wear on our shirts. Those companies are going to kind of come and go. I remember also back in the 80s, right? What was the brand everybody had to wear? Members only, right? Now you wear members only, you're laughed at, right? Things change. And God doesn't change. That great love that we have for our sports teams, they don't really care about us. They just want our money. Sports teams are going to fold. God will never fold. God will always be there for us directly, caring for us, loving us in a very special way. So let's thank God for that. Let's enter into that relationship over and over again. Let's remember that special love of God, the love that is self-sacrificing, love that gives the world hope, love that is indeed infinite.